Welcome to this tutorial. It's part 3, drawing a site plan in Revit. Okay, so our last tutorial we've got and added some additional drafting items and drawing items like parking and families, trees, etc. to our site plan itself. Okay, now on the working side of the file, now we need to start using filled regions, so annotation. So here we need to use filled regions. We're not going to be using masking regions currently, mostly filled regions. Okay, to go and denote materiality, etc. I've got an example that we'll have a look at now, and that's what we're going to try and replicate. Okay, I've opened up the example. So here we've got some concrete paving. We've got a sidewalk that we might have to re-establish because we're doing some work here. So we'll have to re-establish that sidewalk. And we've got a planting area in here as well. Okay, so that planting area, we've got some concrete paving and we've got herringbone paving at the back for the parking as well. And then we've got some filled regions that we need to establish to show the adjacent to neighboring buildings. Okay, as per this legend. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is bring back our aerial photograph. So VG, go to raster. Just remember, when you're done with this image, you can get rid of it as well. So VG, I'm going to switch off all the imported information here. I'm not going to need any of this imported information anymore. Okay, nor that. Press apply, press OK. Okay. All I need is some cadastral information and I need some outline of how the building is going to work. So with filled regions, it's line work combined with a hatch. Unlike AutoCAD, this is these two parts to a filled region. You need to pick a line type, and we can see we've already got a building line, but that's not the correct line which you need to use. We need a building outline. So let's go and create that quickly. Manage, additional settings, line styles. Here we're going to go and add new. I'm going to call this 4. I'm going to call this building Okay, so we just need to add this building outline. Okay, just remember that needs to be 4. And we're going to make this also a slighter gray just because it will just define it a bit better. Okay, now that I've created that line work, while I'm in the command, I can simply go and find my 4. Simply just hit on your keyboard, jump up here, building outline, and we're simply going to start tracing along the site cadastral information. You can see this building's got a couple steps. So here I'm simply just going to start tracing perpendicular, come back to here. So snap end, because it'll typically run along the border here. Come back in this direction. Here we've got a little part of the building that steps back this way and comes back to here. Come back to here. Come back to here. Come back to here. And then snap perpendicular. There we go. So trim that. Just remember, these must have no closed loops as well. So if you tab everything, it must all be one consistent line. So that's what it is. Okay, and it's aligning with that. So if I end the command now, okay, so I've used the wrong fill pattern. Just remember, with fill patterns, I'll have to use the existing. So when you are creating a fill pattern, let me just do that again. Component, sorry, fill region. You need to pick which pattern you want to use. We are going to make a new one now. Okay, but that's fine. So continue. escape. So here I've got one. I'm going to quickly go and reproduce the rest of these very quickly. Okay, so I've got and reproduced all of these. They're all the same fold and they're called existing fold region. Now I need to go and donate my own building. For that, I can switch off my raster now because I no longer need that. VG, raster. Switch that off. Okay, now with the raster image off, I just have to go and pick up where my building's located very quickly. So here again, architecture, annotate, region. Here I'm going to say filled region proposed. We'll make up some new ones in a minute, but for now, I'm just going to use the pick line tool. I'm going to pick line. I'm using the grid lines for this because they're very accurate. I don't want these to be skew. So once I've done that, trim. Okay, so of the 4 buildings, this is going to be my chosen site where I'm going to work. And that's working well. Now I'm going to say create similar again. So I'm going to say create fold region. This time I'm going to go and say edit type. I'm going to duplicate this proposed. So I'm going to say duplicate proposed. I'm going to say rest. Proposed rest. Basically, I'm just giving this a value. This must be slightly different in color. So I'm going to use this faded out red because this is all new development, but the building in focus and the building I'm working on is the building at the end. So if you just have a clear legend of how things work, it's very understandable. Okay, so that's all I need to do. I've changed the color. And just remember here, you just assign a fill, but it's always going to be a solid fill in this instance. Press OK. Now I'm simply going to use a line command. So snap end, snap. Here we're going to go SI, snap intersection, snap end or intersection, and then C for close. Okay, you can see here you can close the command as well. It was the wrong command, so let me just do that again. So from there to there. Now just make sure, tab, make sure it's all one closed set of line work and it's a proposed rest. Now if I finish the command now, okay. So what we have now is we've got a clear distinction of how these work. But I've got a feeling I'm just going to do this for now and then copy these just so that it gives me some line work that I can use. So sometimes you don't need to produce line work like the paving and stuff like that because it can be incorporated in your filled region as well. But I'm happy with that. So what we've managed to achieve, we've managed to build our existing buildings and our proposed buildings. The next thing I need to do is I need to add these filled regions. So in this is say isolate category. I need to add these to a group as well. So select all the filled regions. There's a group already, but this is just going to be buildings. This will be my buildings group. Select that, select that, select that, select that. Add this to a group because we're going to use this on our other site plan as well. Let's just call this buildings. Press OK. Now I can simply say Control C, go back into the site view over here, and just say paste align to current view. Okay, there we go. Now you're starting to see how this is starting to take effect. Now we need to start establishing some more materials at the back here and the new paving, for example. So let's just go and have a look at our example and see what materials we need to use here. Okay, so in the front of our building, we've got a 300 by 300 concrete paver. We've got some basic concrete footpath that they'll do that in sections. And we've got some herringbone at the back that we need to do for the parking. So let's just go back here. Okay, now we can actually start working on the site plan view a lot more. We don't have to keep making these groups coming back and forth, etc. So very quickly change this to Project North. That's important. Okay, while we're working, we can switch it back when we're done. Okay, so all we need to do now is establish the paving as well. Establish the paving, the new paving, so we might have to create some new paving across here. So let's just go and see how we can do that. Component, filled region. Here I'm simply going to go and find, I think if we use screed, for example, that should work well. Let's just see how it's set up. So the hatch is gray, Line weight is always set at 1, very important. Here, I'm happy with this pattern. So let's press OK, press apply, press OK. Now I'm simply going to use a pick line tool. So I want that line, that line, that line. I want this line, this line, this line. Sorry, that line there. Press escape, delete that. One last thing. In my pick line tool, I'm going to use invisible lines for this. So right at the bottom, this is only applicable in filled regions and mask regions, invisible line. This will look different. It'll look slightly grayed out. That's fine. But what's neat is it never prints. Okay, it's never visible in the view. So here, we start here again. So I'm just using the pick line tool. And let's just draw this across here because this will stop here somewhere. And do that likewise here. Select all the line work. Go to this isolate category so we can make sure that it's nice and clean. And just select all the line work in the view very quickly and just make sure it's all invisible. All invisible. Okay, you can use a shortcut on your key. So if you use shift arrow, it'll jump to these so invisible lines. Make sure it's all invisible lines. Now, just remember, these all need to be closed loops. So just trim this quickly. Okay, tab, no close, no open holes. Just make sure here as well, no open holes. Great. Finish the command, reset. Okay, now we've got our hatch. Just remember, with the hatch, if you apply masking, it will hide everything beneath, which is not what you want for certain hatches. Some hatches, yes, not all of them. Okay, annotation objects will always take precedent over this. So just go back here, switch that off for now. Press OK. Okay, now you can see with the invisible lines where the hatch stops, it just stops. So that invisible line, it's not visible in the view. Okay, all right, so that's worked well. That's worked well. Now I just need a herringbone. So let's just see what we can do there. So filled region again, invisible lines again. Let's just see. There should be a paving layer, which I think this is. Let's see how this works. Again, pick line tool. So pick line, pick line, pick line. So here we're just trying to pick the lines inside here, there, this line here. We just want the full extent. So I picked the wrong line there. And I want the inside of my wall here. So let's find that line here. So this will all be paved, paved. Here we might just have to work around those a bit. This is the only downside to this hatch tool that sometimes is a bit annoying. Unlike AutoCAD where you can just drop a hatch in, this you physically have to go. So this is where it'll take a bit of time. But you could have assigned a material to that that surface as well. Okay, some surfaces you can't. So let's go isolate category. We need one more. So let's say reset and pick one last line here. Oh, okay, I see. Okay, trim. Okay, there's two lines over each other there, so just be careful. Yeah, there's still an issue here. So there's still line work over each other here. So there was a slight issue here. So fill it. Okay, let's see now. Yeah, we'll see now. There's probably some line work over each other there. Trim that. Trim that. Trim that. Trim that. Trim that. Trim that. Okay, good. Trim that with that. Good. Trim that with that. Trim that with that. Good. Okay, now tab. Okay, here's a hole here. So this is not working. Get rid of that. Yeah, let's draw a line. That usually solves the problem from the end point. Snap end. Force it to snap to the end. Try that again. Perfect. We still got a hole here. So something is not working here. Unjoin elements. Sometimes there's two bits of line work. So if you hover and you see here, it'll tell you one. Let's see here maybe. One. Okay. Trim. There we go. Okay. So now that's worked fine. Okay. Reset temporary hide. Now that's worked like a treat. The only issue that I'm seeing here is the line weight is incorrect in this hatch. So that's a wake-up call saying, no, that should be 1. Okay. Just remember that 1. Okay, that's working a lot better now. So that's working well. You can also send this draw order send to back, just like an AutoCAD send to back. So your other annotation objects set above, just bear that in mind as well. Do that for these hatches. Okay, so select all these filled regions and say send to back. Okay, so select this filled region, send to back. Okay, there we go. All right, so we've sent all that to the back, and I've got a 3D model of a gate, but if you needed to, you can draft that gate in. Now, the last thing we've got left to do is I've got some sort of planting in the line here, and we've got some paving in the front here. So we need to set up a whole new filled region to do that. So filled region again, duplicate. So here we're going to say duplicate. I'm going to call this 300 by 300 concrete pavers. Okay. Now that that's been established, here we need to go and set up, and here we need to be strategic. You either want a drafting or model. In this instance, I'm going to make sure it's a model, and I'm going to say new, create a new one. I'm going to create new, sorry, my mistake, new. I'm going to call this 300 by 300. Okay. This is going to be a cross hatch, and here I can simply type in 300 and 300, and we can change the degrees to 0. Okay, so that's my new hatch. I'm going to press OK. Everything else is fine. That's fine. Press OK. Here again, we're going to use a combination of invisible lines and visible lines, because I need a visible line to show a break here. Okay, so let's go to visible lines. Here I'm just going to use my curb line, because technically a curb line is exactly what it's doing. A pick line tool, we're going to say there. So this is my curb line. Now the rest of the line work, invisible lines. Again, invisible lines, pick line tool. So I can just click tab once. Oh, tab once, click. So clicking tab, you can see it's drawn the outline of exactly what I need to achieve. Again here, click once, click there, tab, try and select. That's fine. And then here, I'm just going to use this line here. Bang. Okay. I see. Quite simply, trim this, trim that, trim that, trim that, trim that. Tab, make sure it's all closed. That's fine. Reset, finish layer. There we go. However, you notice this is all at different angles. All I can do now, because it's a model hatch, use this and align that with that. And you can see, and maybe again align that with that. Okay, you can see now that my concrete hatch is starting to work well. It looks great. Just remember, like all the other hatches, send to back. Okay, send to back, send backwards. Okay, all right. So we've now concluded adding some materiality to our drawing. We've got all our services in play currently. And if we start going to our sheet and having a look what this looks like on our sheet, let me just go back. And one thing I have noticed with Revit's colors, they don't show up that great here, but as soon as you make a PDF, you'll notice that the colors stand out better. Okay, so grayscales, for example, if you went to print this on a black and white plotter, it will print fine. Okay, so that's starting to work well. Okay, and we can see our site boundaries. One thing that we might have to address as well is we need to increase our site boundary information. So we need to go to VG, object styles, site. You need to go to your site information, and your site boundaries, property lines need to be increased as well. Just bear that in mind. Property lines, that's going to be 5, and that will be 5. Press apply. And here, just for the sake, I'm going to change. So let's go back to site, property lines. And I can simply change this to dash dot maybe as well. Yeah. Okay, it just reads a bit better. Okay, so those are working a lot better now. So our site boundary lines look a lot better. Okay, one click and we fix that. Line weight 5. Now you can start seeing that this is starting to look quite neat. Okay, and you can see that these lines just just always send these things to the back. Send to back. Send backwards. Okay. We want our site boundaries above. It doesn't really matter if the adjacent buildings, but here it's important. And you can see, we can clearly see our site boundaries above everything else. Okay, so that's very, very important. Okay, so now that we've done and established all of that, okay, our next step will be to do all annotations. And that will be part of part 4. All right, so just remember, switch this back to true north. We don't have to bring this information back. We've shown all the overhead lines, etc.